Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are embarking on an absolutely incredible journey to explore one of the most famous and influential objects in the entire world. But this object, well, it holds a secret that might just change the way you see it forever. So, let's start with what seems like a really simple question. You see it on a shelf, you hold it in your hands, it looks like a book, right? Well, the truth is actually far more amazing than you might imagine.
That's right. The Bible isn't a single book written by just one person. It's a portable library. It's a carefully chosen collection of ancient scrolls, poems, histories, and prophecies, all written by dozens of different authors over thousands of years. Okay, so let's dive right in. Here's our map for today's expedition. First, we're going to really get this idea of a library. Then we'll explore its original blueprint, see where the path kind of forked, and discover exactly why not all Bibles are the same. And that's going to lead us to a hidden wing of this library you've probably never even heard of. You know, every library needs a system for deciding which books actually belong on the shelves, right? And to really understand the Bible, we first have to wrap our heads around a super important concept, the idea of a canon.
Believe it or not, this one ancient Greek word, canon, is the key that unlocks the entire mystery. It literally meant a measuring rod, like a ruler. And it became the standard, the measuring stick that each community used to decide which scrolls were sacred. This one idea is the single biggest reason why not all Bibles look exactly the same.
Our journey into this incredible library has to begin at its foundation, the collection of scrolls known to the Jewish people as the Tanakh. You might know it as what Christians often call the Old Testament.
The word Tanakh itself is actually a clue to how it's all put together. It's an acronym, TNNK, for its three sacred parts. This is not just a random pile of scrolls. It's organized in a very specific way, almost like a stepped pyramid of authority. It's the original blueprint for how to read it.
And this just lays it out perfectly. First, you have the Torah, which is the core instruction. Then come the Nevi'im, the prophets who spoke into the nation's history. And finally, the Ketuvim, this really diverse collection of writings. See how each step builds on the one before it?
And here you can see some really famous examples from each of those sections. So the foundational stories of Genesis, that's in the Torah. The powerful epic visions of the prophet Isaiah, that's in the Nevi'im. And of course, the beautiful, timeless poetry of the Psalms, you'll find that in the Ketuvim.
Okay, so now let's see how this library starts to grow and change, because every great adventure story has a fork in the road. For the Bible, this big split happened centuries before Jesus was even born, and it created two different paths that communities would follow for thousands of years.
So on one path, you've got the Masoretic text, the original Hebrew scriptures, preserved so carefully. But on the other path, you have the Septuagint, a Greek translation that was made for the legendary Library of Alexandria. Now here's the key difference. The Septuagint was translated way earlier, and it actually included more books than were later accepted into the final Hebrew canon.
And this is so important to get. It wasn't just about having extra books. The translations themselves could change everything. Just look at this famous verse from Isaiah. The Hebrew uses a word that means young woman, but the Greek translators chose a different word, one that specifically means virgin. That single word choice had a huge impact, shaping prophecies for early Christians.
So, because of that fork in the road we just talked about, different communities started to build the Old Testament wing of their library in different ways. It all depended on which path they followed, the Hebrew path or the Greek one.
This chart just makes the results so clear, doesn't it? Protestant Bibles, they followed the Hebrew Tanakh, which gives them 39 Old Testament books. But Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, whose first communities mostly use that Greek Septuagint, well, they have more, 46 and around 49 books.
These extra books are often called the Deuterocanon, or sometimes the Apocrypha, and to contain these incredible stories of faith and wisdom, like the adventure in the book of Tobit, or the heroic history in 1st and 2nd Maccabees. All of these were part of that bigger Greek library that the very first Christians read and loved.
But hold on! Our expedition is not over yet. Not by a long shot. We have one more mind-blowing discovery to make. A hidden wing of this library that is the largest of them all, and it was preserved for centuries almost completely isolated from the rest of the world.
Okay, get this. What if I told you that there is a Christian Bible that's been used continuously for over 1,500 years that contains 81 books? 81! It's not a myth, I promise you. It's very, very real.
This is the canon of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest Christian communities on the entire planet. Their journey of faith took a different path after the 5th century, and that led them to preserve this unique and much larger collection of sacred texts.
Because their church was separated from the rest of the Christian world for more than 1,000 years, they basically became the sole guardians of certain ancient Jewish texts. I'm talking about books like Enoch and Jubilees. These were super popular before the time of Jesus, but they were eventually set aside by other communities. Only in Ethiopia were they preserved in their entirety.
So, wow, after this whole journey through this magnificent, diverse library, what's the lesson for us? What are we supposed to take away from all of this?
You know, the key takeaway isn't about getting into a big argument over which book count is the right one. It's about taking a step back and just appreciating that each of these collections, Jewish, Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, Ethiopian, each one represents a community's sacred, multi-generational effort to protect the words they believe are from God. Each one is a testament to incredible faith and dedication.
And this profound respect for preservation across all these different traditions, that offers us a really powerful lesson. Because the goal of these sacred libraries, after all, isn't just to win arguments about history. It's to give us wisdom for our lives. In Jewish thought, one way to apply this wisdom is by improving our midot, our inner dimensions, our character traits.
So that brings us to your challenge for the week, and it's inspired by that deep respect for tradition that we've seen today. Let's practice kavod, which is the Hebrew word for honor and respect. Sometime this week, find someone from a different background or belief system than you. Ask them a genuine question about a tradition they hold dear, and then just listen. Listen with your whole heart to understand them, not to try and win a debate. Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.